so much for dropping by today. I really appreciate it. I thought I should take a closer look at the orchids I recently bought. The ones in pots really need some fresh medium, so I'm taking you along as I do a couple of repottings. And I'm starting with this Dendrobium nobile. So far so good. Can you see? The root system is quite good. The medium is that coconut husk of inferior quality, which can be very tricky, because if you're not careful, it will remain wet for too long, and that will make your roots rot. But for nurseries, it must have some qualities. It is inexpensive, and they don't have to water so frequently, so they can save labor and water. And that is what I usually do. When I buy an orchid planted in this material, I water the least possible till it is safe to change it. This medium here is dry, and as you can see, it's being quite easy to detach. This poker I'm using is quite useful to do this, but we must be careful not to damage healthy roots. This part might take a while, so I better speed it up a little bit. Well, most of this is done, but there's the most difficult part now. There's the dreaded moss plug in my way. I can see that there are some healthy roots growing right through it in the middle of the moss. So I have to be extra careful to remove it. Amazingly, these roots are excellent. I cannot see any bad root here so far. And there are roots coming from the center of the plant, which is excellent. This is the most tedious part to remove. This moss plug is where the orchid was grown from seedling in very small pots. When the orchid grew enough, she was placed in a sequence of larger pots, but this original moss around the first roots was never removed. But of course, the moss turns acidic with time. And when we repot an orchid, the first thing is check if there is a plug, and if there is one, remove it carefully. It will take quite a while to take it all out, so I will fast forward till it's done. I'm not going to clean the roots under the tap this time. They seem clean enough, and instead I will spray them with hydrogen peroxide 3% because I just saw a worm in there. Usually I like worms in pots with terrestrial plants, but not in an orchid, and it's not the right place for her anyway, because she helps to degrade the soil. This one is spotted in bark, which does not seem degraded or anything, but I want to change the medium, mostly to see if there is a cause for the slight wrinkling I can spot on the leaves. Maybe it's a sign of dehydration. And there's this one root that grew out of the pot. Well, not bad. In fact, the roots are not fantastic, but they are not bad roots either. Just a few pieces of old bark are attached to them, so not much work needed here. I'm going to clean this all up and I'll be right back. This is quite a small orchid, but I will have to use the same pot, the same size of pot, because I do not have any other one smaller than this, but it seems okay. I'm just placing some orchid bark. I'm not placing any moss for the time being, as I will be watering more often than they used to in the nursery where this plant came from. I noticed that they keep their orchids warmed up, but always very dry. Maybe that is the reason why these leaves seem a bit dehydrated. I like to get the bark tight, but not too packed. For these smaller Phalaenopsis, a few gaps are welcome in my environment. This is my way of providing enough ventilation around the roots, as they live in the house all year round. And this one is done. And now the Dendrobium. This was the pot where it came in, but it seems too small now that I have untangled the roots. So I have this another pot, which is just slightly larger. Yeah, this one is just right. Placing a bit of bark at the bottom. If I place the roots like this, even if I twist them around to fit better, the roots will be pushed into the center of the pot with very little space for the bark to barge in the middle in the center of the plant. And all the bark I put in will be sitting around the roots. Well, that means lack of hydration for the roots in the center of the plant. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm placing some pieces of bark in the middle, like this, making a bed. I hold the roots together and put it into the pot. There you go. This way, the bark will be equally distributed around the roots, like this. This orchid has roots that are thinner than the Phalaenopsis, so in this case I don't want to leave any gaps, otherwise the roots will not be hydrated enough. Looks good enough. Now the stakes. Et voila. There they are. They look nice and tidier now. Before I go, let me show you my Dendrobium berry, which is in full bloom. It looks like a happy plant with the bright pink color of the flowers, making a very lovely effect. I'm growing this Dendrobium in semi-hydro. At first, the plant resented a little bit the change, but now she seems to be enjoying it. This Dendrobium berry has been very gratifying this year because it has been in bloom since late December, and there are still some buds to open and others are still forming, which is great. And hanging up here, we can see one of his parents, Dendrobium Kingianum. This one is mounted and doing well, very, very well. This plant started blooming mid-October, and it has bloomed ever since. Some flowers are going now, but there are others still to come, some buds to open. Very happy with this one. Beautiful. And this is all for today. You have a wonderful day, and I'll be seeing you next time.